Expanding your business in Europe. The mid-market decision framework for contractor, EOR, or entity. Choose wrong in the UK and HMRC can look back 6 years. Choose wrong in Germany, and termination can trigger litigation. Choose wrong repeatedly and you've burned 6 figures before you notice. Mid-market companies don't fail in Europe because of ambition. They fail because of structure. Expansion usually starts like this. One contractor in Spain, an EOR in Germany, a direct hire in the UK. Each decision made in isolation. Country by country, hire by hire, no unified framework, and that's where costs quietly compound. This isn't a guide to hiring in Europe. This is a decision framework for choosing the right structure before expansion becomes expensive. When entering a European market, you have 3 primary routes. 1. Contractor. 2. Employer of record. 3. Owned legal entity. Each has a place. It becomes expensive when not applied. Model 1. The contractor. Contractors offer speed, low upfront cost, and flexibility. In Europe, contractor risk is high. The risk of misclassifying a contractor is incredibly high. Take the UK, for instance. The IHMRC can investigate employment status and apply a 6-year tax lookback. If misclassified, you may owe backdated employer national insurance income tax, adjustments, interest, and penalties. Germany, Italy, and Spain also apply strict substance over contract tests. Contractors are viable when the worker has multiple clients, they control their schedule, they bear financial risk. Contractors are dangerous when they work exclusively for you. They're integrated into management, they generate core IP, create core intellectual property. Or for all intents and purposes, they look indistinguishable from employees. Contractor is not a scaling strategy, it's a tactical bridge. Model 2. Employer of record. An employer of record allows you to hire employees legally without creating an entity. Enter markets quickly, reduce setup complexity. Employee of record is ideal when you're testing a new market, you want speed over margin optimization. You need compliance coverage. But EOR carries higher per employee cost and long-term margins that compound. EOR is not permanent infrastructure. Think of an EOR as scaffolding for your expansion. It's temporary, not a permanent foundation. Model 3. Owned entity. Establishing a local entity provides full operational control, lower long-term cost per employee. Direct compliance management, but it requires setup time, legal fees, and ongoing accounting, payroll, infrastructure, and governance management. The entities make sense when you have 10+ employees in one country. Revenue justifies presence. You plan long-term investment. You need operational independence. To have an entity is a commitment, not an experiment. Here's where most mid-market companies lose money. They make decisions like this. Let's use a contractor in Italy. It's quicker. Let's try EOR in Spain. Seems easier. Let's open a UK entity, because we need one anyway. 3 countries, 3 structures. No consistency. It creates fragmented payroll, inconsistent compliance visibility, different risk levels, no unified cost forecasting, and CFOs lose clarity. Expansion becomes reactive. Here's the framework. Before entering a country, ask questions. 1. Headcount projection. Will we exceed 10 employees in 18 to 24 months? If yes, the entity should be evaluated early. If no, EOR will likely be more efficient. 2. Revenue strategy. Is this a core revenue market or opportunistic expansion? Core market for entity consideration. Testing market for EOR or limited contractor use. 3. IP and control sensitivity. Will this workforce access core IP, represent the company publicly, operate under strict regulatory oversight? If yes, the contractor risk increases dramatically. 4. Regulatory complexity. High regulation countries include Germany, France, Italy, Spain. In these jurisdictions, contractor risk and termination exposure are significantly higher. Ad hoc contractor usage in these markets creates long-term liability. Companies rarely lose 6 figures in one dramatic event. They lose it through backdated tax reclassification, duplicate payroll systems, redundant entity setup, EOR, margin compounding unnecessarily. Without a country framework, These inefficiencies stack quietly. A well-governed expansion strategy includes country-by-country risk assessment cost comparison over 3 to 5 years. Contractor classification audits define graduation plan from EOR to entity, not improvisation. Architect. For CFOs, this is about predictable cost structure, avoiding tax lookbacks, managing audit exposure, ensuring due diligence and readiness. The UK 6-year look-back alone should eliminate casual contractor use for core roles. Expansion should reduce risk over time, not increase it. Europe is not one market. It is 27 legal systems operating in parallel. Contractor, EOR, or entity are not interchangeable tools. They are strategic decisions. When chosen deliberately, they accelerate growth. When chosen reactively, they generate six-figure surprises. Before you enter your next European market, build the framework, because expansion without structure is just expensive experimentation. If you've stayed until the end, here's the strategic layer most mid-market companies miss. Choosing between contractor, EOR, or entity is important, but what really saves you 6 figures long-term is planning how you evolve between them. Most companies don't build expansion architecture. They build patchwork. They start with a contractor in Spain, then use an EOR in Germany, then open an entity in the UK. What they don't ask is, what happens when this company grows? Because growth changes the math. A contractor model that works at 1 hire collapses at 3. An EOR that makes sense at 5 employees becomes unnecessarily expensive. At 15, an entity opened too early creates fixed costs that slow cash flow. Without a graduation plan, you get stuck in the wrong structure for too long, and that's where hidden costs stack up. Duplicate payroll systems, inconsistent benefits, fragmented compliance oversight, complex offboarding when restructuring. By year 3 or 4, you're not scaling, you're untangling. So here's the executive shift. Before entering any European country, define your 24-month headcount forecast, your revenue expectations, your IP exposure, your exit or restructuring flexibility. Then choose the structure that fits not just today, but your projected state. Smart expansion isn't about the cheapest option. It's about the most adaptable one. Because in Europe, unwinding a bad structure is always more expensive than building the right one. Scale deliberately, and more importantly, scale with a graduation plan.